The Day of Atonement. What a beautiful day that was. Have you ever made a study of the Day of Atonement? What really happened that day? I want to read the scripture, and I'm going to compare the Day of Atonement with the crucifixion. John 14 verse 6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by or through me. You have to come through Jesus into the Father. A few weeks ago I was speaking about Jesus is the door in John 10. But what happened on the Day of Atonement? What was very interesting that day, they've made 3 sacrifices. Every single day there were 2 sacrifices, 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the high priest was not allowed to rest between those 2 sacrifices. He had to wait for all those sacrifices to be completed before he was allowed to sit at the end of the day. But on the Day of Atonement, when the high priest stepped into the Holy of Holies, that day, 3 sacrifices was made. And there's so much I want to tell you today about that. But I have to contain myself. So if you want to know more, just ask. Just contact. And we can give you more information. But I want to compare the 3 sacrifices with the 3 crosses. And the 3 ways that Jesus said he is. The way, the truth, and the life. So let's start with the 3 crosses and the 3 sacrifices. The first sacrifice was made at 9 o'clock. Jesus was nailed to the cross, 9 o'clock the morning. At noon, 12 o'clock that day of the crucifixion, Jesus said something and everything turned dark. For 3 hours there were total darkness. And at 3 o'clock, the sun came out and he said, I'm giving up my spirit. What does that really mean? Have we ever thought about the meaning of all 3 of those sacrifices? We read the Old Testament, we read the New Testament and think, okay, let go of the Old Testament. But if you don't understand what happened there in the Old Testament, you will lose a lot of things that happened in the New Testament. That first sacrifice represents the man on the cross that asked, just think about me this day when you are in heaven. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. When Jesus was crucified, it wasn't dark. And there were no high priests to overlook the sacrifice. Why? Because the high priest has torn his cloak. So Jesus, according to the book of Hebrews, Hebrews 7, Jesus is the great high priest. Not only the high priest, he's the great high priest because he was the sacrifice, he was the high priest, he's the King of Kings, and he's the Lord that stood up. So he's the great high priest. Not only a priest, not only a high priest, but he's the great high priest. And he overlooked all 3 sacrifices, although he was the sacrifice. So the first sacrifice was the man on the cross that said, just think about me today. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. Because those days when they died, they were taken to paradise. I'm not even going to go into that. The second sacrifice that was made at noon when everything turned dark was the man that mocked Jesus. It represents that mocking of the world today, that mocked you and say, but take yourself off the cross. He mocked Jesus. And for 3 hours there were total darkness. And at the end, when the sun came out, Jesus called out and he gave his spirit to the Father. What does that represent? That third sacrifice. When Jesus died, he completed all the sacrifices. It was finished. It was purely done. And that is why Ephesians said, and he went and he sat on the right hand of the Father. What does that mean? In the Hebrew language, when you talk about the right, you talk about authority. And Jesus, that was authoritative on earth, but not manipulative. He was authoritative on earth, just took back his seat because he completed the sacrifice. That is why he sat on the right hand of the Father. 3 crosses, 3 sacrifices. It represents 3 situations in your life. Where are you? Have you asked God to come into your heart? Or are you still on the brink and you wonder? You're following the crowd and wonder what the crowd is saying. Or have you come to the place where Jesus said, I'm giving up my life? The first sacrifice, the way, that's the entrance to the tabernacle. Then at noon, the truth. You will be confronted with truth and you're going to have to decide, do you want to keep the truth for yourself? Or are you going to share it? And something must give in. Either the world's truth will be with you, or God's truth will be with you. But something must give way. And then the last sacrifice was the life. Jesus gave his life for you. Have you ever accepted the life of God? Because he says in Romans 8, the same Spirit that rose Christ from the dead is living in us. 3 sacrifices, 3 crosses, 3 entrances. Where are you? Have you ever entered through the way, the door? Or are you still standing outside and watching the crowd and following the crowd? I bless you today by giving back your choices to you. I bless you today with a choice that you can make, that no man can actually condemn you on. Jesus said, I will not condemn you, but at the end of times, your works will condemn you. John 3:17, he said, he did not come to condemn the world, but to save the world. Today, you've got a choice. Are you going to call out and say, let me be with you? Or are you going to mock God? Or will you step into his life and say, I'm willing to lay down my life, to step in you and sit with you in a complete work? The choice is yours. Be blessed. Make your choice. It's not going to be easy, but I promise you, it's worthwhile to step into Christ. It's worthwhile to step in that victory. It's worthwhile to step in to the life. I bless you with the life of Jesus Christ, the victory of Jesus Christ. You can conquer. Shalom.